With their annual warm-up act in the wildcard round, the Steelers have made yet another not-so-graceful exit from the NFL playoffs. Don't get me wrong, there were flashes of solid play throughout the year, but from a national media standpoint, nothing was discussed more than the men under center. The season started with Justin Fields, fresh out of the quarterback hell that is the Chicago Bears. After a modest 4-2 opening act, everyone from beat writers to dormant Fields fanboys were hailing him as the future. Then Tomlin whipped out his Uno reverse card-shaped dick.
That's why I'm well compensated. Thank you.
The high knees would be flying in the Steel City. Now, having played the remaining 12 games of the season, we stand at the end of the yellow brick road looking back on the journey we walked. Or should I say road?
Let's ride! We're ready for professional fucking growth!
The black and gold currently have one quarterback under contract for next season. The immortal Skylar Thompson. A man with experience losing in the wildcard. He fits in perfectly. Might as well be a cinching can of icy lighty so Pittsburgh coated. Either way, Skylar's merely competing for third-string QB, thank God. No, the choices are either Russ or Fields for another season. In a free agency with no worthwhile upgrade for hire reaching for someone like Jalen Milroe, we're forced to sleep in the Steely McBeam bag. The Steelers have about $40 million in cap space to play with, barring releases or restructures. A few starters are set to be free agents. Some that I want back, some I'm ambivalent towards, and others that can have their door smack their ass on the way out. The main issue is that the Steelers currently have two low-end starters at the most important position for pennies. Russ is getting paid a whopping $31 million by Denver to not play for them. And Fields was still technically on his rookie deal, only costing $4 million in 2024. Someone's gonna get paid. Who? Beats me. Probably beats them too. The least we can do is give an educated guess as to who and what their market value may be. Statistically, Russ had almost the exact same year he did with Denver in 2023 after being freed from Nathaniel Hackett. Statistics are iffy with Russ because Sean Payton told him to fuck off in the middle of the season, and he didn't play his first 6 in Pittsburgh due to a lingering injury. So just note that all stats mentioned should be taken with a grain of salt, and when necessary, we're estimated on a 17-week curve. In total, Russ threw for just under 2,500 yards during his Pittsburgh reign. This places him at 22nd in the league, even with his missed games. Statistically, this places him above Josh Allen and CJ Stroud, but under the likes of Jordan Love and Justin Herbert. The caveat is that in its number one spot is Jimmy Jesus, blessed be his name. Because in his one start, he threw for 334 yards against, ironically, Seattle. So let's move on. One thing I noticed is that Russell Wilson was significantly more conservative with the ball than during his stint in Mile High. He only had 5 turnovers in Pittsburgh. Well, Denver saw so many it may very well push a certain Broncos fan into qualifying for AARP by aging 20 years. This can be hand-waved and explained away as Russ not being asked to pass as much due to Pittsburgh emphasizing a rushing attack. For all its faults, the Steelers' offense did manage to ride the hot hand. Seemingly, if Najee Harris wasn't finding gaps, you can lean on Jaylen Warren for the game, or vice versa. The decrease in attempts and turnovers seemed to be more of an effect on the situation, rather than an indicator on Russ as a player. As the season went on, whether it was out of necessity or not, Russ seemed to be using his legs a bit more. They're nowhere near what they were in Seattle, but when the situation presented itself, Mr. Unlimited put on his big boy pants and ran to his heart's content. Usually to terrible outcomes. Nonetheless, his rushing numbers were still way down from his past, being more content in the pocket. It didn't exactly turn into more efficient runs, just less dumb sacks. For the most part. But the one thing Wilson still had? The moon ball. Oh, that spiral is still as beautiful as it was as a Seahawk. And while it was done sparingly, it did show that it could still stretch the field. Down the sidelines to George Pickens at least once a game. And maybe a throw or two to Mike Williams. Seriously, those would be the few catches he'd make as a Steeler. If you're looking for anything else besides that in checkdowns, you're out of luck. That final stretch of the year was atrocious. And it pretty much put the team into the predicament they're in. That game against Cincy, it was as if Matt Canada was running the offense but with more foolish hero ball. So where does this leave Wilson? If you're trying to gauge a potential contract out of comparable quarterbacks, statistically his closest comparisons would be Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence. Not exactly inspiring hope. Both are grossly underperforming their deals, and as of recent can't stay on the damn field. Fortunately, this version of Russ isn't getting anything close to $55 million a year. Especially because of one fact in particular. Where else is he gonna start? Most QB-needy teams will simply draft a replacement. So unless they want a mentor, count the Titans, Giants, and Raiders out. With the albatross of karmic retribution over there, the Browns are in no situation to outbid anyone for anything, let alone another quarterback. If Russ wants a realistic shot at starting next year, he's staying in Pittsburgh. Any other team that'd be willing to toss him a bone would want him as a Joe Flacco type for a young quarterback. Or to do high knees up and down the sidelines on game day. For all the shit Pittsburgh's rightfully given him, perhaps this armchair quarterback should listen to a certain leader of men turned actual armchair quarterback. Captain Slimfuck recently came out with this statement.
Do you give Russ? I would go to Russ and be like, are you willing to take $20 to $25 million for a year or two? If he says yes, then I would bring him back. If he says no, then I would go to Justin. Not let Justin know what I asked Russ, but be like, are you willing to take 15 to 20 for a year or two? While you're bridging and trying to find, now you are still actively looking for a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback that can be your guy. If both those guys say no, I would try and find a way to see, okay, is there another guy available? Like a name that might need to get thrown around is Sam Darnold now.
That's not a terrible idea. These two guys are bridge quarterbacks and shouldn't be given more than a year or two deal. Fields has a higher chance of getting a starting job elsewhere considering his pedigree and raw talent, but I think that number is a touch high for Mr. Unlimited. Given his age, few options outside the Berg, and already having a year with the offense, Russ would be smart to link up again. So given his options, here's my guess on what a Russell Wilson contract will look like. The team-friendly deal. $15 million a year for 2 years, and out after one with the ability to be renegotiated. The expected deal. $20 million a year, $25 million guaranteed for 2 years. And out after one with no trade clause. Russ's dream deal. Double dipping $30 million a year for 3 years, $45 million guaranteed. Tack on a no trade clause too. While the QB situation in Pittsburgh isn't ideal, there isn't much else to choose from. Unless you want to hope Sam Darnold can maintain his insanity run for Russ's dream deal, be my guest. Realistically, the QBs in the 2025 draft class are projects at best. So there's honestly no harm in using the time you have to try and reassess the rest of the team, draft a corner, eject Pickens into the sun, pray you get T. Higgins, and maybe allow the vets on the team to mentor the youth. Cam Hayward doesn't have much time left as a pro athlete at his age, but his experience allows you to use some of the talent this team hides in ways they haven't before, so that they too can maintain the standard of 9-8 Super Bowl.
Let's ride. Let's ride.
Broncos.
Let's ride.
Perfect.
Okay.
One more time. Broncos country. Let's ride.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.